Shelly, thank you so much for joining me over here on the Cut to the Deal podcast, where we really try to answer one basic question of how can filmmakers make, produce, and distribute profitable films. And a big part of that equation is theatrical distribution. It's, that sort of holy grail is the one thing that all filmmakers aspire is to see their film on the big screen, especially outside of the film festival circuit. And that's why I really wanted to talk to you today about theatrical distribution, who it's for, who should consider theatrical distribution, who should go straight to streamers, how filmmakers can go about having their film be screened in cinemas, and all the sort of marketing and distribution strategies that go along with that. But before we dive in, could you tell us a little bit about yourself, your past experience, and also what you currently do?
Of course. My name is Shelly Kratzer. I am the founder of Zion Marketing Group. I started it about 3.5 years ago. My goal in life was not to be in entertainment. Like, honestly, I wanted to be a teacher, and that's what I went to school for. I went to college to become a teacher, and as I was in my 3rd year, I got the opportunity to work at one of the vendors, Technicolor, and I would do that off and on all through college. And I was like, and I got a piece of the entertainment bug, being raised in SoCal, like you're always kind of around it. And so that's kind of how I got my start, like working for the vendor, working for a company like Technicolor. And then over the years, my career just casually just started to shift and change. And probably about 14 years ago, I left the vendor side and went over to the studio side, where over the years of me working with the vendors, I always worked with the group, the exhibitor marketing team or the in-theater marketing team for each major studios. That's what we did. We shipped out all the materials from one sheets to trailers to standees. We were doing that. Now I have the opportunity to work for a studio and to handle their in-theater marketing as well. And that's kind of how my career kind of started now in theater marketing. I've been doing it again for probably about 14 years now, and I absolutely love what I do. Like, every day, it's a new day, it's a new challenge. You never know what you're gonna get. And even going from working for a studio to now working with independent filmmakers, it's a huge change. It's challenging, but I love it.
Great. And can you tell us a little bit about what type of films you work on right now? Perhaps like an estimated budget range, just to give people an idea of the kind of projects, Is it ones that not only with films that have the budgets in the millions, or is it with sort of micro budget films as well? Any kind of insight that you can give would be great.
It varies, and I think you just hit the pin on the head. It is from very micro budget, because some of them are like documentaries, they're raising funds, to where some of them have a little bit more P&A to spend, and they have been raising money over the course of a few years, and so they want to come out and compete. And then some of them, there's a purpose behind the film, so each film is different, but it ranges from a micro budget to, a nice, probably mid-sized budget. I feel like in the independent space, you may not necessarily receive a blockbuster, multi-million-dollar type of budget, because they are doing it independently, and so they don't have the studios backing them up. But it just varies on the type of release that it is, but it ranges.
Okay, amazing. And I find that most filmmakers who go down the theatrical distribution route, there is usually 2 reasons why they're doing that. One is the financial. So some of them think that this is going to be a good revenue generation model for them, either through theatrical or because that's going to give them a lot of exposure, which they'll be able to capitalize on during streaming, or simply for other personal reasons. They just want to see their film in cinemas, even if they lose money on it, and so on. Do you find in your experience that that's sort of the best way to categorize why people go down the theatrical distribution route? And can you give any more ideas on kind of the reasons why people would want to have a theatrical distribution?
Yes, so there's different categories. So as I spoke before, with a documentary, right? Some people want a message to be heard, and they want it to do so within the theater space. They want a call to action I worked on this one documentary where it was about the Colorado River, and like it was amazingly shot, and I felt like it needed to be seen on the big screen. Yes, you can watch it on your computer, on your handheld devices, on your TV, but watching this in a theater was breathtaking. But his goal of putting it in a theater was a call to action. He wanted people to see exactly what was going on. He felt like the theatrical experience would give it an even more boost. Yes, he was always going to go down streaming, home entertainment, and everything, but he wanted that theatrical, just for the call to action, to get people involved, to get people talking about it, to get people out there. And so for that documentary, yes. And then you have others where they want to compete. They want to compete with those majors, or they want to compete with the minors. And so they're making films to do that, to do so, to say, hey, there is enough room at the table for all of us to eat. And I think I have a quality film. I think it should be seen in the theaters. And they're making it strictly for the theater experience. And then you have another category where it's like, okay, I want it in theaters. I don't necessarily need it in theaters, but I do like to say, hey, I had a release in theaters, but I'm more concerned about the downstreaming. However, if I can get it in theaters, like it just makes me, legitimize my film even more, even if it's in a handful of theaters, even if it's like 5, 6 theaters, as long as I can say, oh, I had a theatrical release, then you have that group of people too. So it's all over the spectrum. It's from, hey, there's a cause, or hey, I want to compete, or hey, I want it in theaters just so I have that bragging right of, hey, my film is in theaters, go check it out.
Okay. And I find that theatrical distribution is not for everyone. It's not for every single film. So let's perhaps talk about what type of films or filmmakers shouldn't be considering theatrical distribution, and for what reasons.
I wouldn't necessarily say what type of film should not. I think all film should consider it, unless they just absolutely are not making a film for a theatrical experience. I think if you have something that you're passionate about and that you want it in the theater, like, why not, right? Like, who are we to say, like, what's going to work and what's not going to work? And there's some titles that I worked on over the years where I'm like, oh, this is really going to work. Like, this is going to do good. And then when it releases, it doesn't do as good as I thought, or, the critics have thought. And then you have some films that kind of like sneak up on you where it's like, oh, why are they making that a theatrical release? And then it shocks everybody. So I would say, if you're into filmmaking, like, always consider theatrical. Like, don't sell yourself short and not consider it. I think it should be something that you should always consider, always have it in your back pocket. And then being able to pivot, just because you made it for a theatrical, it may not land there after, it's all said and done. You may look at it and say, you know what? I don't necessarily want this theatrical. I just want this, down streaming or home entertainment. But I think every film is worth a consideration for a theatrical release. And I'm not just saying that because I am in, in theater marketing and it's all about the theater. I really think like every film should at least be considered. And, like, you have a team, do your research, do some tracking. But I think every film should be considered.
Okay. And I'd love to now talk a little bit about when a filmmaker comes to you and they say, look, I want a theatrical release. And, you start to think about the strategy and the sort of journey that their film could go on. What are the most common routes that film can take? And I'm thinking here from, hey, let's, some filmmakers deciding to just four-wall a theater and, and rent a room out to, a limited theatrical release to perhaps a bigger one. Can you talk a little bit about, some of the films that come your way and what are some of the different routes that you lead them on?
Yeah, I feel like by the time most films come to me, there's a good portion, probably 80% that are coming to me with, hey, we are going theatrical. How that theatrical looks, we don't know. But by the time it gets to me, it's a very strong, hey, this is going to be a theatrical release. And it could be, have I worked on anything really small? I'm not working on any, I would say, four wall releases, right? So if I'm being brought in, I'm being brought in on a release, let's say starting at 50 screens, going all the way up to, especially in the independent space, going up to like 1,500, 2,000 locations. So if I'm being brought on, like
Mhm.
that's where they're already going. But my first question is always like, what's your budget? Like a lot of times people don't understand like theatrical distribution as a whole, from like the sales team, from an in theater marketing person, from media and media buys, from analytics, from tracking. Like there's just so much that goes into the theatrical distribution, where a lot of people are like, well, I have a film, it's complete, like let's go. Like they don't realize like getting your trailer on screen and what that entails are, hey, working with some of the circuits and their loyalty program and their email. So my first question is always, hey, like what is your budget, and then like how wide are we going, and then from there I will start drilling down like a strategy. I would say always come prepared with poster art or key art and a trailer. I think those two things are key. And now we live in such a social media world, always having, those assets, as well, um, when you come. So those are the questions. Having a synopsis, that's another thing. Your
Mhm.
log line, another thing. A letter from the director. These are all things that, as I'm looking over it, I'm starting to put a strategy together from an in theater standpoint.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
And I've got a question on the so a budgets are something that I think a lot of people listening right now will be really interested in, and I've got two questions on that. The first one is, are the majority of people who are coming to you independent producers who are looking to self-distribute their film theatrically, or are they doing it via a distributor? And if they are doing it via a distributor, is it the distributor that will pay all those fees up front, or the filmmaker? Who pays?
So I have a combination. I would say it's pretty 50-50. It's independent filmmakers who want to control everything. And they will work with maybe other distribution companies more on the downstream. And then I have some like independent, smaller distribution companies that they are handling all the billing, the payments, and everything. But I think they're also working with the P&A budget that the filmmakers are bringing in. So they may have some, and then the smaller distribution will have some as well. So I work with a combination of, hey, like I said, the documentary that I worked on last year, it was self-funded. Like they did all the funding. The director was very involved. An amazing guy. I hope I can shout him out. Ben Masters, like he is amazing. His film was the American Southwest. He also did the film, a documentary, deep in the heart of Texas. But like he controlled everything, and like he knew that space, and so it was easy for him. And when he didn't know, like he asked the question, but like he knew that space, he owned the space, and he wanted to control his material, his product. And then you have some other people that may be a little bit more hands off, but I feel like most filmmakers, if it's gotten this far, they want to be involved, and then they want to say. And some of them bring their money, and some of them are relying on the independent. And that's why I always ask for a budget, because some of them are not even necessarily thinking of a budget. Like, oh, wait, I have to pay for X, Y, and Z. And it's like, yeah. like you
And
do. And
sure, and obviously, that's the big thing about theatrical is that there is an upfront cost there. If you're trying to release your film online, it tends to be very, very cost effective, and there aren't actually many upfront costs, to putting your film up on Tubi and Amazon and so on. But with theatrical, the costs are there. So let's talk a little bit about that sort of minimum 50 screen release that you mentioned. What is the minimum budget that filmmakers should have if they're trying to do this sort of 50 screen release, and where's that money going to?
I won't give out numbers because I think everything it
Hmm.
really varies.
Okay.
But I would say, come with money. I would say be comfortable with coming with money to lose, right? Like it is a gamble. Like you think you have a good product, and you could have a good product, but like there's so many different scenarios that could happen. But I would say come prepared with money for somebody who's going to handle your sales, your booking, someone who's going to handle your collection, someone who's going to handle your in theater marketing, someone who's going to handle your media buying, someone who's going to handle your ads, someone like think about shipping and fulfillment. If you have a one sheet that you want to get to the theaters because you want people to know that your film is coming, like take that into consideration. Like, oh, I have to ship it to the theaters, like I'm gonna have to work with a fulfillment house, like think about like those things. Just don't think about, oh well, my film is ready for a theater and it's just going to play. Well, think about how is my film going to get to the theater, and how am I going to market my film that is going to play in the theater. Like you have to kind of think about all of those things when you're putting together a budget, not just saying, oh, well, I have money for a premiere. Yeah, a premiere is nice and it can give you some of that free press, but that also costs money. Or is it better spent to say, hey, I may not do like this huge premiere thing, but I may want to do a friends and family screening, or I may want to do, another type of screening, but like just thinking about, or hey, I want to buy out 10 locations for some of, like let's say I have a huge following and people who have supported me over the years and I want to rent out, like think about like all of those things when putting together a budget. You can do straightforward where, hey, I have a trailer, I have key art, a poster, a one sheet I call it, and I'm going to have some digital assets, and I'm going to be as simple as that. We're going to go out with that, like, what does that look like, and then start drilling up or drilling down from there. Again, I don't want to throw out numbers. I could throw out a number and be like, oh, is that it? Or, oh, that seems kind of high. And then you have that and you're like, well, Shelly said it was going to be $10 to release this film, and here I am spending $1,000 to release the film. And it's like, no, no, no. Like every film is different, and every fifty release screen is different, right? Like I could go
Hmm.
on 50 screens and I'm a horror film, and it may not take a whole lot to promote that versus, hey, I'm a documentary, and so now I want to be a little bit more strategic about how I'm going to approach my people. Or, hey, I'm on 50 screens, but this is, I feel like, is a more awards type of film. And so now I want to target, all the awards people. So that's going to be a different budget and a different strategy. So I think when you're sitting down as a filmmaker, you have to think about like all of these films. What type of film am I releasing? Who is my audience? What am I trying to gain from this? Am I trying to gain like award season? Am I trying to do a call to action? Or hey, I think this is a fun movie that will be great scene. So like all of that, and how can I get in front of those audience? What is it going to take for me to get in front of the
Yeah.
audience that I want to kind of bring into the theater?
And I really want to kind of take the conversation to two different steps over here. The first one is the distribution, getting your film to the theater, and then the second one is marketing, getting the audiences to the theater to watch that film, which is a whole other challenge as well. Just on the kind of note of the cost, Is there any kind of indication of range that you can give us? Because I think a lot of filmmakers, even including myself, when I'm thinking about, 50 screens, is it going to be $1,000? Is it going to be $100,000? Is there any kind of like a range or indication of what you could give of like an average one, even if it is quite a broad range, just to give people an idea of what it might cost? And I know you're reluctant to say something because it
I
might be
am.
very, very different in different. That's why, even if it's quite a wide range, just to give people an idea of, right, if you've got $3,000, perhaps this isn't the way for you to go, type of indication.
I and I would say again, it really is going to depend, and I don't. I'm trying to think like what dollar amount on the low end what kind of makes sense, but it depends on like I work with independents, so they're bringing me on to handle like their in theater marketing and to make sure. So there's that fee, right? And then
Yeah.
again, if they're an independent filmmaker, then you need somebody to book your theaters and to negotiate your terms with the theaters, and to sell the film to the theaters. So you have that person, right? So that's two people right there, and then you have like the collections aspect of it. So that is another person, unless you have somebody that's already on your team that has done it before and that they can do that collection. So let's just say, that's three people, and then you may want to add like an overall media buyer, to the team. Again, if you don't have it, so let's just say you bring in five people to help you release your film. So you have that cost right there, and then you have costs as well. Like I said, like the print costs, like getting your film to the theater, getting your trailer to the theater, getting the one sheet to the theater, working with the exhibitors and their loyalty programs or their newsletter. So all of that has a cost to it, but it just depends. Are you working with, like five circuits? Are you working with one circuit specifically? Are you working with two circuits specifically? Like that all plays a factor in like on a budget. Like for me alone, I'll just say this. For me alone, uh, could I work, and this is just like in theater, uh, could I work with somebody who has $20,000? Yes, I could. But
Okay.
that's just the in theater, right? Like that's just the in theater aspect of it. Um, and
Okay.
then you have to take in consideration like everything else that could be okay, that's not a bad number, but then that also could be like, maybe that's too high, like maybe I don't have that. Do I want to tell people, well, don't try to pursue it? No, continue to pursue it, because maybe you don't need all that 20,000. Maybe, you're going to do a different strategy. Maybe you're not going to do posters and ship those out to the theaters. Maybe it's all going to be an all digital campaign. So could it be a little bit less? Yes, it can. So it honestly depends on the type of release. Like there's no day that I do the same thing.
Mhm.
There's materials that I work with all the time. I'm always working with key art. I'm always working with the trailer. I would say those two things do not change, whether it be a 60-second trailer or a 2-minute trailer. Like I'm always working with that. Whether it be a digital poster or a physical one, I'm always working with that. So it just depends again on the type of release, on your budget. Can you make anything work? Yes, you can. But then you have to be realistic, right? Like if you're coming with 20,000 altogether, what am I realistically trying to get from this? What is my goal? Is it just to say, hey, I was in a theater? Or is it I'm really trying to make a difference? I'm really trying to do something. Or I'm just, getting my feet wet to see what this theatrical is all about. Like, what is
Yep.
having my film in the theater? What does that look like? And so, yeah, I would say
Okay.
it varies.
Well, thank you. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And let's talk a little bit about getting your film into the theaters. So whether a filmmaker is going through a booker, right? Is that what you call them? Who's actually booking your film into the theaters and negotiating the deals? Um, or perhaps if they're maybe trying to do that themselves somehow in a really kind of DIY way, what does that conversation look like with the theaters? What are theaters looking for? So when someone comes and presents them a film, is it the genre? Is it the marketing spend? Is it showing that there is already an audience there? What do those conversations look like?
Yes, yes, and yes. Yes, so those conversations look exactly what you just said. Like, hey, is there money to spend? Because exhibitors want to know that, hey, you are doing something to promote it. Like, if you want me to give up a screen in my theater, I want to make sure like you're going to the people that you need to go to get them to come into my theater to watch your film, right? So that's a part of the conversation. I would say the release calendar is a part of the conversation. Hey, what's opening up? Does it make sense? You kind of want to go in a space maybe where there is a huge blockbuster because people are coming in and maybe that film is sold out. And so you have an alternative for people to come and watch your film as well. So the conversation is, about terms. I'm not the sales person. I'm not the one who is having those conversations with the film buyers at exhibitors, but like I know the gist of it, and those are like the conversation. Hey, what's the spin? How are you guys marketing? Like, who's your audience? Even when I reach out to exhibitors and I say, hey, I'm working on this new film, like their thing is like, okay, what's your budget? Who's your genre? What are your comp films? Give me your synopsis. Like those are like kind of the things that they're asking like right off the back, and to see, hey, is this something that will make sense for our audience? Because again, like exhibitors know who's coming to their theaters as well. Yes, you have the big circuit chains like the AMCs, the Regals, the Cinemarks, the Marcus theaters, the B&B theaters, and then you have like the smaller ones as well where they really know their audience. And if I have a horror film and I'm in the Bible Belt, like it may not make sense for me to release a film in that. And it's like, well, you're just going to waste your money. So it's like having that conversation and knowing the market, knowing your film. And that's just that conversation that sales is having with the film buyers.
Okay. And regarding the places where you might want to have your film release, can you talk to us a little bit? Perhaps you have like a past project, I don't know, that you might be able to reference, or perhaps not, even if it's not by name, in terms of the strategy of what types of films, what types of cinemas that film was released in, and why, and in what regions. I mean, for example, do you tend to start off with the hometown of the filmmakers, or simply in a place where where that genre of film might be best received? What are the strategies when it comes to sort of the geography of what types of cinemas you release the film in?
So yes, you are looking at all of that. You're looking at, and that's why I said exhibitors will ask, for comp titles. So if I have a horror film, and excuse me, I'm going to look at the latest, let's say 5 releases over the last 3 years, and I'm going to look at how they perform in certain territories. And those are the territories, are the regions that I'm going to originally target. If I have a faith-based film, I'm going to be looking at, the Bible Belt like region. And that's probably where I'm going to go. And yes, I'm going to look at also where was the film made? Like if it was made in Ontario, California, like where I live, like, hey, I may have a following already there, so let me go ahead and open it up at the 2 theaters that are, actually there's more than 2 theaters, AMC and Regal, in Ontario. Like, let me make sure that my film is playing in those locations, because I already have a fan base. They saw me, filming on the streets and everything, and I have a good following in Ontario. This is my hometown, so let me make sure that the film is playing there. So I may start there, and then I also kind of want to hit, some markets that may overperform, like, LA always, New York, San Francisco, Texas, in some areas, Florida, did I already say New York? Like there's pockets where you wanna hit to make sure that you have your film in those areas as well, because people, if there's a movie opening up, there's people that are going to go to the movies if they're avid movie lovers, and if I have quality product and my film is there, and if I can get in front of them, then yes, I'm going to want my film to be playing in those locations. Or I may want to stay away from those major markets, and I only want to concentrate in this one area because my film is speaking towards this one area. Like I said, I keep referencing the documentary, but it was about the Colorado River. And so it made sense to do locations around the American Southwest. Did it make sense to release it in New York? No, it did not. It made sense to release it around the American Southwest.
Okay. Super interesting. And I also wondering, especially for filmmakers who are working, they don't have massive name actors in their, in their films. They don't have huge marketing budgets and so on. For those types of filmmakers who are looking to do a theatrical release, would you recommend that they start off with a smaller amount of screens, see how it goes there, and sort of expand from there? And is that also a better strategy in terms of convincing more cinemas to release your film? And is that sort of generally speaking what happens on the low budget indie film?
Again, like it's gonna depend, and I hate that I keep saying it depends, but it really does. Every film is different, where they may come out and they're like, no, I want it on 100 screens. Like, this is the agreement. I want it on 100 screens. I won't take less than 100 screens. Like, it needs to be on 100 screens. Like, this is the goal that I want. I need to hit it no matter what. And so, like, sometimes it's just, hey, let's just throw it out, see what sticks and whatever. And then there's time where it's like, okay, let's have it like a slow release. Let's go to these 4 locations. Let's do some Q&As. We wanted an award. Let's say it's an awards film, right? Like, we feel like there's good meat to it where it can be considered during the award season. So we may release it 4 locations, do Q&As where we can get the buzz, people out, get press out, sold out screenings and everything. And so when it comes to, the opening weekend for those 4, then it's like, oh wow, like, look at what this film is doing, and then you expand. So it just depends on if it's a platform release, a limited release, or no, a moderate release or a wide release. Like, it varies.
Okay. And can you share a little bit about the terms when you book a cinema and you book a screen? Generally speaking, what does that look like in terms of the length that the film is there? Again, on a sort of low budget indie scale, is it sort of you get a couple of screenings and depending on how full it is, they'll either extend it or not? How does that normally look like?
Yes, so in the independent space, yes, that's exactly kind of how it is. Of, hey, we're releasing it. Here's my release date. I have a release coming out, on March 20th, right? I'm going to this run, and it opens to a solid number. Like, if your film is performing, the theater is not going to like, oh no, I'm taking it away. Like, if it's performing and if it's bringing in some funds, then yes, it will continue to play. But if it opens and you sold 1 ticket, now there's a new release coming out on March 27th. Am I going to keep your film that, hey, I only got 1 ticket sale, that opening weekend, or this new release where I have an opportunity to maybe get 10 ticket sales? Like,
Yep.
my film is going to be out of the theaters that next week, but if I am bringing in the audience, then no, my chance of staying longer in a theater, and I think that's just across the board, whether you're an independent or even if you are a major. Like, if your film is not performing, like, if I am a business owner, why would I keep the product, in a sense, on the shelf? And not to say it in such a harsh way, but like, that's just realistic. Like, I want to constantly bring my audience. I have people who are constantly coming in, and I want them to constantly coming in, and I want to make sure that I am constantly providing them with the best or the newest release or whatever the case is.
Mhm. Okay. And now let's talk about keeping that film in the cinema via marketing and getting people into the theaters. Um, what are when we think about marketing, thinking about in cinema marketing, we're thinking about running paid social ads and Google ads and print ads and whatever that might be. What would you find that right now in 2026 is the most effective sort of marketing strategy?
Even in 2026, I would always say, especially I'm an in theater person, like I am marketing to the people who are already going to the theater, right? I would say that's always your best bet. Like,
Okay.
people are coming to the theater, why not market to those people who are going to the theater? Like, that's the given. Hey, they're coming to the theater. How can I market to those people that are already going to the theater, who already want to go to the movies to watch a film? Like, exhibitors have their subscription, so there's people that are going to see films, 3 or 4 times a month. That's a lot. Like, once a week, and maybe even more than that. Like, how can I get them to now come see my film? And so then that's where I come into play, where it's like, okay, well, they're coming to see this film. I have a horror film that I'm working on, and these horror films are a suspense film or an action film is coming out. There's some crossover demo. I want to make sure that my trailer is in front of them. So as they're sitting there watching what just recently came out, Crime 101, like as they're watching Crime 101, as they're sitting down in their theater and the trailer begins to play, that the trailer that I'm working on is playing in front of them. So, hey, they're already coming to the theater. Now I want them to see it. So now they see my trailer, and now I'm going to hit them where, oh, okay, I have a one sheet in the theater. Oh, like, oh, didn't I just see that trailer playing on screen? Yeah. Oh, look at the one sheet. The one sheet looks really cool. And then working with independents, if the budget is there, now I may have a standee in the theater too. But like, oh, look at that cool standee. That this film looks it looks interesting. And then hopefully then it gets them to go to YouTube or the social media channel and look up the film and see, okay, well, when is this film coming up? I don't remember what the date was, so let me go and see. This looks like a film that I can see. And then, like, how do we then continue to target it? And then working with exhibitors to say, okay, if they went to go see these 5 films in the last 6 months, I want to target them. I want them to see the trailer in their inbox or a push notification, or with your socials. I want to target these people that have come, or who are in this age range, or who have liked these 10 different pages. I want to look at targeting them, and that's kind of what I start doing, and I work with their marketing teams.
Okay. Regarding doing sort of paid marketing online outside of the theater, so we're talking, here about performance marketing on, say, Meta and Google and so on. I come from a performance marketing background, and the one thing that I found really, really frustrating, we're going to get a little technical over here, so I'm not sure exactly how this is going to go, but let's go with it. So,
Okay.
when you run paid ads, and say I run a lot of events that are outside of theaters, and I will sell tickets on my website, and I will be able to then track conversions back to Meta to tell them, hey, this was a customer, right? This was someone who is customer. Find me more people like these customers. Can you do that with theater bookings? So can you, when you have different theaters, can you run paid ads and actually have a deal with that theater to somehow install your pixel on their website so that you can track back where the sales are actually coming from? Or is it really a campaign that's more of an awareness and sort of clicks campaign, just driving traffic to the theater page?
I'm not. We the exhibitor controls the data, right? Like they
Right.
have access to all that. We don't control the data.
Okay.
What we can do is, hey, I know I'm opening up at these 10 locations, right? So now what I can do, and whether it works with me working with, the social media person that has been brought on as well to handle that aspect of it, to say, okay, here are the 10 locations that we know that we're opening. Can we do some geo tracking around that to those people? And so then we can control that data, right? Like, hey, this is the data that we now have. The exhibitors have theirs, and they're not going to share it. We all know data is king. But then we can do that our own, in a sense of, hey, we know we're going to these 10 locations. Let's track around it, and then let's also do some additional tracking like elsewhere. It's a little bit scary of how I would say people are tracked. And I remember years ago sitting in a meeting, and we were talking about like our phones are listening, and people were like, no, my phones are never listening. And I think I tested it out, and I think I said something like Blue Apron, right? Phone sitting there. I think a couple of days later, I started getting all of these ads like on my phone. So there is a way for us, I say that to say there is a way for us to track, in a sense, how to market to those people. We don't necessarily carry it unless we're actually doing the paid ad. If I'm working with an exhibitor, they're controlling the data, they have that information. If we're doing it on our end based off of, the 10 locations or the 100 locations that we're doing geo tracking, then pushing them to our website and then tracking them, from that, then yes, we have that information, and then we can then go back and do a repush. Let's say it was a solid week, and so now it's week 2, and so we kind of want to do another push. And maybe they didn't come out opening weekend, but like they clicked through and there was interest there. Now we can target them. But I can do that same thing, like working with exhibitors. Hey, we saw that, this is a good push. Like, can we do another paid ad and do another push to those people who we know are interested or who are clicking through, watching the trailer, and have some interest towards it. And so we do that as well.
Okay, interesting. And I'd also love to talk a little bit about trends and what's currently happening. First and foremost, what type of films let's talk about a sort of revenue perspective over here in terms of how much money they're making, right? Again, outside of the kind of big blockbusters, what type of films do you find are currently doing the best with theatrical releases? And this can be kind of whether it's genre, whether it's specific topics, any kind of insights you can give on what type of films might be doing better right now than others.
Right. I would say, I'm not sure if it's a type of film. I feel like if it can work, horror is always a good one, right? Like it's not, and people say, yeah, you can spend a lot of money on a horror film, but I feel like you also don't have to have those A-list stars if the horror is done right, right? Like people, they love to be scared for some reason. Like they will go and see a horror film if it looks good, if it makes sense. And you don't have to spend a lot of money, I feel like, as a filmmaker, like making it and creating it. Like it's not in a sense a heavy lift if it's done right. I would say another type, I feel like faith-based, right? Like people like faith, and if you can get that community out to come see your film, especially doing group sales and everything, if it works, like it really works. And then if it doesn't, then it's like I feel like you miss that mark of really doing your outreach. But I feel like with faith-based, like even before it kind of hits a theatrical release, like you're doing your announcement, or as you're doing your announcement, your press release, like you already kind of have an audience, like you kind of already know. And I think those are the films that work and that we see that work, where you have a built-in audience. Like again, like you said, outside of the blockbusters or people are going to go and there's a lot of money spent, Like if you have a built-in audience that you can kind of get to, let's say I'm a filmmaker and I have a built-in audience, and we just saw it recently with a built-in audience with I forget, Iron Long. Yeah, I think
Yep.
that's the name of the
Mhm.
release. He had a built-in audience, and speaking to a few people, like they were opening it up on not a whole lot of screens to start off with, and then it exploded. And because it exploded, then it expanded. And so if you have that audience already and it's built in, those films are going to do well. But like, I can't be I have to do my work as a filmmaker before like or as I'm building. So you want to constantly be building the awareness of your audience. So as I am shooting the film and I'm a filmmaker, hey, here's a little behind the scenes. Hey, look at what I've done today. Like if you are trying to build a following or if you have a strong following, like start updating them. Like as you are making this film, hey, we had a table read and it went great. Like I can't wait until this releases. Like start building it sooner rather than later because a lot of the times, and which is it's kind of it's funny sometimes like when we're being brought in, they're like, okay, so let's say it's what, February 18th today? Like people are saying, okay, well, I have a release that I want in April. Well, and let's say, yeah, in April, like let's say April 1st. Well, you're not giving enough time to ramp up to get that awareness out if you haven't already been building. Like I personally like for an in theater space, I like 4 to 6 months to be able to market a release. And when I say 4 to 6 months, I mean like making sure we have the trailer, making sure we have all the assets that we need, going out to exhibitors to say, hey, I have this film coming. Like these are the targets that I'm looking for your trailer. So I just think going back to your question of like what type of film works, it's like knowing your audience. Like those are the type of the films that work. Like if you know your audience and you can
Mm.
drill down and like they're believing in what you're doing and you can like convert that to a ticket sale, like that right there is huge. And then being realistic, like, hey, I'm opening up this film. Does it make sense? Yes, it's a good film and we're getting all this. Does it make sense to go on 500 screens? Or do we want to, let's make it like it's a must see, but it's also like kind of limited. So maybe we go to 200 screens. Like we want that sense of, oh, like don't miss out, like and get people coming that opening weekend. And like how do we do that? And it's all about like the strategy. It's all about the marketing, and it's starting like at the time that hey, I have a script or hey, I'm writing a script. Like get people involved in your project like early. Like I know some people like
Mhm.
don't share too much too soon. Yes, I agree with that. But just share enough where people are going to be excited for you, especially if you already have a following. Like you want them a part of it, so then they feel a part of it.
Yeah, I think that's such great advice. And yeah, I'm a big believer in the fact that all filmmakers right now should be building their own audiences. They should be building their own personal brand as well, which helps with building that audience and having that space online where from one film to the next, they can actually progress rather than trying to just build a new audience from scratch every single time that they release a film. So that's definitely great advice. And my final question for you is about the state of the theatrical kind or of the cinema industry at the moment. Actually, sort of post COVID, has it recovered? I mean, I'm still kind of seeing really, really empty screens for most releases everywhere. Has it recovered, and do you think it's going to keep recovering, or what do you think is going to happen next? Are we going to see more or less films in theaters?
Yeah, I think people still want to see films in theaters. I really do. Do I love watching, my streaming services sitting on my couch? Yeah, but then there's some films where, like, you have to see it on the big screen. Like, the Fast and the Furious franchises. Do I want to see that on a big screen? Absolutely. I want all the crazy, all the ridiculousness that comes with that type of film, right? The documentary that I mentioned, like, it was good to see it, and I was able, because I have to kind of watch the films before um, it's released to kind of see like how do we want to market it. Like I watched it on my computer and it was amazing. When I saw it on the big screen, I was blown away. I was like, wow, like my computer
Mhm.
did not do it justice. So I think there's still an audience and people want to still see a film in theaters. Like it's just there's a different effect when you're seeing it in a theater full with people. Like it's just a different experience. I worked on a film last year. It was a sci-fi type of horror film. And like me watching it like at my house again, like beforehand, I was like, okay. When I saw it in the theater with a very interactive audience, man, it just did something to that film. Like people yelling at the screen and or like the gas or the laughing or whatever the case is. I feel like you can't necessarily put a price tag on it. Do I think it has fully recovered after COVID? I'm not sure if it has fully recovered, but I think, we're getting to a place where it will. And I also feel like we're at a time where independent filmmaking, like, now's the time. Like, now is the time. With everything that's going on, now is the time. If you are an independent filmmaker, like, consider theatrical a release and getting your film on that big screen, because I think theaters need the product. They want to stay alive. They want to be out there. They need people to come in. They're trying to sell popcorn and candy and their drinks and everything. So they need the product. And if these independent filmmakers can give them that product, like everyone wins. Everyone wins.
Yep, absolutely. Oh, Shelly, thank you so much for sharing all of these insights. Final thing, where can filmmakers find you? What kind of filmmakers do you want to hear from? It would be great if you could share that.
Of course, my website is zionmarketinggroup.com. You can reach out to me there. Or, I'm always available on LinkedIn as well. I think that's how you and I connected, was via LinkedIn. And my name is Shelly Kratzer, so you can find me there as well. Reach out, say hi, let me know that you saw this. And that's how we are connecting now. And I would love to have a conversation with you. I would love to hear about your film and what you're working on. Whatever the case is, reach out. I have an amazing group of people that I partner with. And on these different type of releases. So reach out and let's see what we can do for you.
Great. And I'll make sure to put all those links in the notes underneath this as well.
Absolutely.
So once again, Shelly, thank you so much. It's been great speaking with you.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.